My job is to somehow make them curious enough or persuade them by hook or crook to get more aware of themselves and where they came from and what they are into and what is already there, and just to bring it out. This is what compels me to compel them, and I will do it by whatever means necessary.
All right, we can get into it. Welcome to the Awesome Black Dad Show, where our goal is to educate, inspire, and encourage dads to become the best version of themselves. Today we got a lot to unpack here, Real. How you doing today, man?
Man, I'm all good, man. You know, just a regular day. Tired.
Right.
Still going. We're gonna get it in, man. Let's do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, over the past few days, last weekend or whatever, man, Chicago has had a ton of stuff going on, man. And you were actually directly involved in one of those interactions. I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about kind of what happened at the funeral and how you were involved in that and what you kind of witnessed there. And then we'll get into some, the rest of the stuff that kind of happened, the looting that happened over the weekend as well, and how it all connects back to parenting, right?
Yeah. So briefly, I was at the 9-year-old Janari's funeral. The little boy that got killed last week. Funerals this past weekend was there. Actually, it was at our church, so had to work. Didn't have to, but kind of volunteer. We figured there's gonna be a lot of people. So, long story short, man. It got wild. It got crazy. The funeral. Well, I don't know what to call them, man. What are they, man?
The directors, the business that was responsible for producing and making sure that a funeral goes well, right?
Right.
The funeral director.
So in essence, the funeral director, the funeral home folk,
right,
pretty much got into it with the family and started fighting. A few shots got let off. Yeah, man. So that
a few shots got let off outside the church.
Yeah. A few shots got let off outside the church. I think 2 guys was arrested. Either 1 or 2 were arrested. Mm-hmm. It was a crazy scene. Still hadn't buried the little boy yet. So took a while for things to calm down. And then thank God we got it somewhat under control and got everybody with cooler heads than it was when it first started. Right. And they went and buried him, and that was it, man.
Now you were there on behalf of the church, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was there on behalf of the church. I was not with the actual funeral director or the people, but we work hand in hand. So it's like, if somebody come and rent out your spot, which is what they did, they rented the church out. Right. You know what I mean? So you try to lend a hand where you can and kind of not try to step on toes and play the background and help out when you can. That's pretty much all.
Yeah, and I imagine that it's been it was pretty challenging because of COVID. And having to manage people coming in and
because there's only 100 people that's allowed, and then it's literally 500 people outside waiting to get in, and almost getting ready to kick the door down because they're out there waiting in the heat.
Right.
Get in to view the body and pay their respects or do whatever because it basically is the whole hood. And then it brought people from all over Chicago. So. It was a little hectic, you know what I mean? Very hectic.
Yeah. I don't know or understand like what's going on with all these. Like I kind of get what happens when you have the violence that happens at some funerals when certain people pass, right? I get that they're right. That whole retaliation thing, but it seems to be becoming more of a norm. Like people, like you don't even want to go to funerals nowadays because people are expecting stuff to happen, at least in Chicago. So I don't even know, it's disheartening.
Yeah, like the 2 weeks ago when they shot up that funeral on, 79th Street?
Mm-hmm.
over 60 shots, just jumped out and let off 60 rounds at, I don't know how many people. A lot of people got hit. I know it was like 12 or 14 people, but
right.
Man, what I see is a lot of anger. You know what I mean? Like it's an anger on a whole nother level that I've never seen before. I've always noticed that a lot of people in general, I would say the majority of people are just angry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At whatever. I don't know what it stems from. I don't know what they're going through in their life, but it's literally so much anger that the smallest minute thing will set someone off.
Right.
I mean,
it's powder keg.
Off. Yeah, like boom, they explode.
Yeah. No, I don't. I imagine that everything that's going on now, man, that we're dealing with, COVID, and then people not working, and then the killings in Chicago and the violence in some of these areas, and having to deal with what's happening in our communities alone. All of that stuff coming together has made it really challenging, man, to just look forward to the next day. Like, there's so much stuff going on, and you just like, God, when will it stop? And then you wake up, right? So even after that, because when I talked to you and found out about through somebody else that they had shot at the funeral, and then they were like, yeah, Rail was at the funeral. I was like, wait, what? And I hadn't heard from you and whatnot, and I was like, well, what is he doing at the funeral? I didn't know that he knew the little boy or anything like that, and I wasn't putting two and two together like you were there with the church and things of that nature until we talked. And then after we have our conversation, man, we wake up the next day and the city is back on fire again, right? Not literally on fire, but the community has jumped.
But some of it was.
Yeah. So it's like, and then you start hearing what's going on, and supposedly police shot another black guy, right? He didn't die from what I understand, but they shot him. And then there was mixed.
They just charged him yesterday.
Oh, did they? Okay. And so there was mixed at the time. There was mixed information coming in about, well, he didn't have a gun. He was dead, and the police just shot him. And then the people in Inglewood got into it with the police officers and stuff like that. And then it led downtown, right? And then they started looting and more looting. And then now you're reading social media and how that's getting out of hand. And I just had to turn all of it off, right? But before I turned it off, what was interesting, somebody had posted something, and they were starting to have a conversation about who's responsible, right? So we can talk about the city being responsible. We can talk about individuals being held accountable. But when you look at some of these videos on social media, you largely see a younger crowd of people, right? And so when you see that younger crowd of people, naturally people look at them and say, well, you out there looting, who house you coming back to bringing Louis and Gucci, right? And I'm thinking, like, if my son coming back with, he 19 or 20, he coming back in the house with, with Louis, he ain't getting in. We're going to have a conversation. It's going to be a problem. And so when you start thinking through, like, the parents of those young folks, are they accountable at some point to some degree? Are they accountable for the actions of those young adults? And does it look bad in terms of how they were raising their kids?
Well, from the first time they rioted after the George Floyd thing, and they did the looting, then I can attest to you that when I was out there, the parents were out there with them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's kind of to answer your question, are they responsible? It's yes, but it's hard for them to be responsible if they're not setting an example. They're pretty much doing the same thing. You know what I mean? So they're buying. If in today's household, they bring the Louis home, they bring the stolen Gucci and all that, the parents happy. You know what I mean? Because now they can make a little money. Some of that stuff she might be able to fit. Some of the stuff old man might be able to fit. You know what I mean? So to them, I don't know. It's just a different mindset. You know what I mean?
Right. But
it's all about me.
Yeah. But even but looking at it, even in that way, and you look at your kid, Nate, and chances are with all the cameras and all social media, at some point, some of that stuff gonna come back. Well, karma, if it don't come back from you being caught by the police, karma has an interesting way of turning around and catching you And one way or another, whether you think about it or not, like you won't remember like the thing you did 2 years ago, but somehow, some way karma comes back and it hits you. But it's just very interesting as I think about it when I'm raising my boys, like I have a level of control over them because they're young. Now when they become, and we both been 17, 18 and defiant with our parents, like I hear what you're saying, but I'm getting ready to get out here and do what I need to, you know what I'm saying? Do what I need to do. And so we would have to, as adults now, we would look back at that situation and say, you can't really blame my parent for that. You can't blame my mama for some of the stuff that I did when I know I consciously did that thing, right? But also the other part, the other side of that coin is that as parents, if our kids grow up and be scholars or professional athletes, right? If the kid grows up and goes to Harvard and becomes a neuroscientist, or the kid grows up and goes to the WNBA or the NBA or the NFL for that matter, any one of those things, as parents, are we taking the credit for all the good? And then when the bad comes, be like, no, he did that on his own. That is not a reflection of the things that were taught in my house, but everything good that kid does is a reflection of what I tried to teach.
Yeah, I mean, it goes both ways if you're mature about it. But even now, like, I want to ask a question. With all this looting and everything going on, right? Mm-hmm. So as a parent, mother or father, how can I put this, man? With your kids, mm-hmm. when you have a child that literally does not care, they're not scared of anything. Like you say, we were 17, 18. Hey, man, I've been through this. You know what I'm saying? You usually try to tell them right from wrong. And, hey, man, this is going to happen. You try to, lay the scenarios out or whatever. Mm-hmm. But if they literally don't care, you know what I mean? They literally have no fear of dying.
Yeah.
They literally have no fear of going to jail. Like nothing really, you know what I mean, makes them care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how do you reach a child like that? Are they too far gone? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, so it's tough. It really is, right? Because at the end of the day, they are kids, and even when they grow up to be our age, we're still going to love them the way that we loved them the first time we met them, right? And they came into the world. And so what is the definition of too far gone? And when do you say, I got to walk away, I got to let my kid find their own way, which we have to do. And that's a part of life. We have to step out of that parenting role to some degree so that they can grow and become their own person, their own adult and human being. So I don't know. That's a real tough question in terms of like, are they too far gone? Like, it almost makes you think, will you ever give up on your kid?
Yeah, I mean, to answer my own question, I never think they're too far gone. I do think to begin to help, you have to show you care. You know what I mean? Because you got to understand, if you've never had the mentality of nobody cares. I mean, absolutely no. My teachers didn't care. My coaches didn't care. My mama don't care about me. My daddy don't care about me. You know what I'm saying? I got a few homies that care about me. They ride with me, and they down to go loot with me. So when you have that mentality, people don't understand where that mentality comes from. Because I always believe that you can't penalize someone for not having something that was never, number one, given or shown. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if they don't have love, if they don't have that self respect and self-esteem,
right?
They were never given. It was never cultured. You know what I mean? It was never bred up in them. You can't really penalize them because they don't know. What else do they know? You know what I mean? What else do they know? What else have we taught them?
Right. And so then it brings up the question. I mean, it kind of goes back to the original question. Who is responsible for showing a kid what love really looks like? And then two, how important is environment in that growth, right? So a lot of what we see and the things that we do is we are becoming we're a mirror to the things that are happening in our environment. And I definitely wholeheartedly believe that it is, if you decide to bring a child in this world, I think it's on you to show them what love looks like. Now, if you, as the parent, don't really know what that looks like, then there's that's a whole other conversation about trauma and, therapy and, all of those things. But to that last point, it's like, who is responsible? And the reason I'm asking this question, right, or why the question really intrigued me, is how do you get to the root of it? How do you begin to reach the young adults in today's society, whether that's our kids, our nieces and nephews, or some peers, some other fathers that come to us and say, man, look, I'm having some struggles, man. I've tried everything, but I don't really know what to do, man. You know what I mean? Like, how do you begin to reach that?
I think if we dig a little deeper and do a little bit of research to try to find out how generational this thing is, because a lot of fathers are not there. You know what I mean? So a lot of these kids that are looting, right? Mm-hmm. Their fathers were, into criminology the generation before them. Right. And most of their fathers may be in jail. Mm-hmm. Like, I looked up the stats. The blacks have, I think it's over 60% of, fathers not at home. Mm-hmm. And the next percentage is like 50, the low 50s, like 52. And it shocked me. That's Indians. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if they lied or not.
Right. Where those numbers come from. But I don't know anything to refute that. I'd have to dig a little deep for myself. But yeah.
I should have wrote it down and actually had it saved on my computer. But and then after that is Hispanics, and then whites is like the lowest. So I don't even know if that's propaganda or what. But
I think it is. I think it is a little bit too. I think it has a lot to do. Yeah,
because whatever with that. But I'm saying as far as the fathers not being home, we got a lot of fathers in jail. We have a lot of fathers that are, and when I say at home, I mean
physically there.
Not living with the child and the mom.
Right. Doesn't mean that they're not present. Like they're not. They might be paying child support and they might be in another house, but they're taking care of their kids. They're making sure that their kids know what love looks like from a father. Right.
And the kid may be growing up, upset. And it begins to brew, because I remember when I was younger, my dad was around, but not really around. Like, I see him, but it got to a certain point. I believe I probably was like 9 or 10, where he really started hanging out in the streets. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I began to resent him because he wasn't there for me to, teach me how to be a man. You know what I'm saying? Right. You learn how to fight by fighting.
Right. Exactly.
One of them situations, I came up like, all right, you know what I'm saying? I learned how to do everything just by doing it.
Yeah.
So, but I remember that anger boiling up, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he would go into rehab and, you know what I'm saying, go to jail, and like he did stints here, this, that, and the other. Right. It never alleviated that anger. It only made it just increase, until I was able, as an adult now, able to look at him and be like, man, you know what? My old man was never taught to be at the crib. My old man was never taught to be active like that, the way I wanted him to be. You know what I mean?
So or where you needed him to be. I think at that time you needed him to be that.
Yeah, I needed him. But he didn't have that chip.
Yeah.
So I can't blame him. You know what I'm saying? So it got to a point where, like, man, I can't even blame you, man. I just love you. You know what I mean? And all that stuff I was mad about, like, it's whatever, because I can't blame you. You were handicapped from the get-go. You know what I'm saying? You weren't even raised like that. You know what I mean? So with these kids, do we blame them, or do we blame, you know what I mean? You can't really blame the parents per se, unless the parents are allowing it. Like, knowing that this is going on, knowing your kid out here doing ignorant stuff, you know what I'm saying? And you ain't saying nothing to stop it. You ain't doing nothing to stop it. Yeah, then you're responsible. You know what I mean?
Because I was thinking in it, I was like, what would my child have to do for me to literally turn them in, right? what is that line that that I'd be willing to draw to say, look, nah, man, you got to own up to that. And I'm big on responsibility and accountability, right? Taking responsibility for your action and taking account. Don't let anybody, fall for the things that you made a conscious decision to do.
Man, you know what? Back in the day, man, when we were younger, the gangs were different. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, yeah, that's...
So that there were rules.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You shoot a kid, you turning yourself in because the whole hood gonna turn you in. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, shooting a child accidentally, whatever.
Right.
No, that I don't care who you after. I don't care what they did to you. Them niggas need to get turned in. Period. You know what I mean? And innocent blood. You hit a girl that died. You know what I'm saying? You was aiming at her boyfriend. You pull up on the car. You shoot in the car. She died. He didn't get hit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's so much of that. Nah. As a community, we need to turn these niggas in.
But we ain't talking about the community. We talking about you as the parent, right? Yes, I agree. The community that has a bit of a disconnect. There's a gap between how much the community will love an individual, right? And I say that with a grain of salt because there are some communities where friends and communities love people more than their families, but that's an entirely different conversation. But in general, as a parent, if your kid was in that situation, even let's not even go as far as like something as harsh as like, killing a kid or murder, anything like that. Let's just say like looting. Let's just say the looting. You find out that your kid is involved in one of these looting situations. They just going along to get along, right? They doing what their friends doing. They doing what their homies doing. They 21, right? Yeah. Is there a line there? Are you just like, all right, is that a stern talking or are you on the phone?
Line there. There's a line there. You know what that line is?
What is it?
Did you get me something? If you went to all these stores, you know what I rock. You mean to tell me that's not my size?
Right.
You know what I mean? You ain't got nothing
Right. Right. Who raised you? Get out.
You know what I'm saying? If you're going to do it, man, do it. Do it for you. You going to jail anyway. They got you on camera. Could have got me some slippers or something, man. You know what I'm saying? Got me looking fly, man.
Right.
That's the line. No, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Like in this situation, being completely honest, I don't think that I would call and turn my kids in for something like this. I would be extremely upset and I would try to correct that on my own. I would.
In all honesty, I wouldn't.
Right. I don't think I would. Now, greater circumstances, a greater situation. Yeah, we're gonna, but I would have to, in this situation, if we're gonna go along the lines with the looting, I would say I'd have to develop some level of consequence that, and even in that, I'm not talking about a child, I'm talking about a young adult. Like he or she is 20, 21. He or she might even be in their own place paying their own bills. And at that point, am I like, I'm still disappointed and heartbroken, but ain't nothing I can do. Like,
we definitely will have a talk. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I'm all about, rebelling against, injustice and standing up for that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a way to do it. And at this point, you're looting because, was he 20 or 15? That's another thing.
No, he was, the information, it was, from what I know, he was, the guy was 20 years old. And also his grandmother supposedly was happy that I think she's the one that called. Don't quote me on that, but I think she was happy that he was off the street because she was scared.
Okay,
so that's an extreme case, right?
I'm saying the reason behind the loot, like honestly, when there's injustice, like they didn't arrest George Floyd's murderers,
right?
Immediately,
right?
To be tear this up,
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Tear it up.
Right.
I'm talking about all they stuff though. Don't
right.
Take your own stuff up. But
build a fence around your joint.
If you gonna loot because a 20-year-old got shot, why weren't you looting when that 9-year-old got shot? Right. You know what I mean? Like, tell me. I need these people to sit me down and explain to me what the what the rules are to looting and to being lawless. You know what I mean? Like, we don't do nothing. We ain't do none of that for none of the kids. We got a kid that get killed every week in Chicago, man. You know what I'm saying? Nobody rioted. Nobody looted.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, none of that happened. So psychologically, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to figure out, how do you get all amped up when it's the police that do the shooting, but when it's, you know what I mean, one of the ops or whatever they call them nowadays, when it's just another shooting. You know what I mean? We can shoot we can shoot each other up, and nobody really says anything, but the police can't. To me, that's a double standard. You know what I mean?
It is and it isn't.
If we're gonna roll, that's everything.
It is and it isn't. So I would have to disagree, and where I disagree is that police are paid to protect the community, right? And so to pay someone to actually, and this is more of a little bit of a generalization in terms of the overall idea of policing, right? I still have issues with how things are being handled. Not necessarily advocating for all of those things. I'm just saying that when a police officer is paid, when you're paid to do a service and you're paid to protect someone. So if you're a security guard and I paid you to protect me while I'm out on tour, and I turn around and I get killed by you, that is like, outside of being ironic, it is just like how does something like that even happen, right? So that's where I would disagree with how those two things are the same. Where I would agree is that I think that we need to find a way in our community to have conversations or find solutions about how we begin to react to situations within our community, right? I think that it's become so normal. The killings, the shootings, the drug dealing, whatever is happening in our community, it's become so normal. It's like we step over it, just like we do if you're downtown on Lower Wacker Drive and you see the homeless people. It's like you do it so much, you see them, it becomes a normal part of your life. And so in our communities, growing up in that way, a lot of the stuff that we're hearing now, it's not new to us, right? And I'm not justifying this in any way. I'm not saying just because it's normal that that's the way that it's supposed to be. I am saying that I think in our communities, one, we need to hold each other more accountable for those things. So because when we were growing up, there were times if we did something on our block and the lady on the end of the block saw us, there was no way that my mama wasn't going to find out. And there was probably a chance that the lady at the end of the block was going to bust my head too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And so that's accountability, right? I'm still going to be a knucklehead, but I'm going to have to understand that I can't be a knucklehead in these 8 blocks, right? Because my mama know everybody here. And so now I got to go over. And if we begin to do that on each one of our blocks, you're not going to have anywhere to run. You're not going to have anywhere to do this dirt because you're going to be held accountable and consequences are going to hit you, right?
Man, I think the idea that the police are paid to protect is absolutely false. I think that's been beat into our psyche over the years that that's what their job is. But if you think about it, how many crimes go, how many homicides go unsolved in Chicago? It's a staggering number.
Yeah.
So if they are meant to protect and serve, okay, I can tell you what they do serve. They serve speeding tickets, they serve all this other stuff. But when it comes to protecting, I think we can't depend on them to protect because they're like 70% unsolved homicides.
Right.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, police are not on the scene, right? They react to situations. So they come after most times, right?
Well, let me say this. Going back to the funeral, the night, little Janari. When all that was going on outside on Laramie and Madison, police were right there. They were in the midst. Matter of fact, I got sprayed with some mace, you know what I'm saying? Because the cop just decided he didn't spray anybody in particular. He just sprayed
the crowd.
You know,
disperse. Yeah.
So me and Janari's father got sprayed because he was right by me. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, my point is the police see these things, man. They see these things go on. I don't know what the protocol is. I don't know what, you know what I mean? But I do see them looking. No one ran to the scene, even with the guy holding the gun. No one ran to him and told him drop the gun. Right. You know what I'm saying? It was a weird look. So it's like, and I see so much of that, man. Even you wonder why crimes don't get solved in our hood, and they always blame, the residents, but crimes get solved in the white neighborhoods. They put all their money into, finding the killer for a exchange student or whoever, whatever. But, you know what I'm saying, they depend on that. They want us to just have this information without them having to work for it. They work for the other people. Yeah. You know what I mean? So because we fatherless, because nobody really cares. Again, it goes back to nobody cares. So that's why kids can kill without even thinking about consequences, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to get away with it. How many shootings and they say no one's under arrest? Like, man, y'all was right around the corner. You know what I'm saying? But if it was one of y'all kids, it'd be, you know what I mean? It's funny how when the police get shot at, all hands on deck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or police get shot, all hands on deck. You know what I mean? So it's like, why can't that be all the time? Because like you said, to them, and this is my opinion, this is not the Awesome Black Dads, this is Real's opinion.
This is Real's opinion.
It happens so much that they just step over it. And you become numb. And the same with the people that's doing the crime and the same people that's seeing the crime getting done. It's a normal thing. It's like me going out watching somebody cut the grass. It's just normal. You know what I mean? So how did we get here? Man, I have no freaking clue. I don't know. The fathers, mothers, we went wrong somewhere.
Yeah, we definitely did. I think we can. Part of that foundation is a lack of accountability, right? When it comes to us holding each other accountable about some of the things that we do in each other's presence. And when I say us, I mean us as men, us as fathers, right? And I don't mean I'm telling you how to raise your children or what to do in your household. But then there's still conversations that we kind of stray away from and we don't say just to at least make us think, like, am I doing the right thing? Right? If your circle is tight and you have a circle of people that is that is dedicated to helping you grow and be the best that you can be, then it's part of their job that when you fall, like not when you fall, but when you mess up, like, bro, that what you did yesterday ain't where it's at, man. You know what I'm saying? Love you the same, but you might want to do something a little different. I know that's a hard conversation to have. But then it still leads to that accountability. I think that part of the reason why my father was never around is because the guys that he was hanging around didn't really care. I can bet, I've never really asked him, but I can bet you nobody was like, man, you having these kids all around the city? You know what I mean? Have you seen your son? Have you seen your daughter? Back then, right? And I don't know if that would have changed. I believe that enough of that pressure would have made him do something different, right? Because we do, in our circles, we hold our friends in high esteem. So it's just, it's just one of those things. So in the communities that we in, if we can reach one, teach one, it can be, it's just that it's going to be, I think that's where it's at. I think that's the piece, the foundation, the accountability and holding each other accountable.
Yeah, I mean, accountability, we hold each other accountable because we literally care. You know what I mean? And that's
caring. That's
back to the point, because it's like when you don't care, you won't say anything. Just like with your kids, if you see them, doing something stupid, you'll correct them because you care. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if you never say anything, it's like you just let them run wild. And I think a lot of that is like, to a certain extent, as a parent, you always want your kid to kind of just, experience growth. So sometimes you do let them fall, and you got to learn how to not to fall. know what I mean? But I think some parents get a little too outrageous with, how far they let them go without correcting them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We get caught up in this cycle of enablement, man. And I know I recognize my own faults in that early on, like some of the things that I'm doing for the kids now. It's like, wait, dude, you 5, you 7. Like there are certain things.
It ain't going no more.
Yeah, you got to learn to do on your own, bro. Like I'm not finna stand here and brush your teeth for you. Like you gotta, but it's hard and I don't want to do it. No, you just lazy. You don't want to do it. You better figure that out.
You better learn how to wipe your own butt.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. I'm so sick of wiping people's butt that ain't mine, man. I'm just saying, like, when will it end? When will it end, man? I don't want to be in there. And it's getting to the point that they eating what I'm eating.
Yeah, little boy, you need to YouTube all this information out here.
Right. Man, get that squatty potty or something, man. We got to figure this thing out because I am sick of coming in here. Yeah.
Your mama got to deal with them little chocolate draws.
I'm telling you, man, because I get tired. As soon as you settle in and sit down and be like, I'm finished. You finished doing what? What you want me to do with that?
Or you eating. You want me to stop eating.
Right.
Come do that. Watch my food cold now.
Yes.
I want it hot.
Yeah, man. And it's just something different about wiping somebody else's. You're just like,
hey, God bless all the ones that's out there doing that for the folks that can't. Hey, Sugar Pop.
Right.
Look who just, girl, how are you? Hey, this is my daughter.
Well, look at that.
Hi.
Hey.
Oh, let me check these out.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
You on the internet?
Hey, you look just like your mom. Thank God.
Hey, babe.
Just like your mom.
Come on over here. Huh?
Yeah, we still recording, Princess. Come on, put your face in the camera. You act like you don't want to see.
The ladies is crashing.
You're crashing the party.
I put my face on there.
What? You on social media? You put your face all on Instagram and TikTok.
For what?
Just say hi. Say hi to Awesome Black Dads, all the people out there.
Right. You don't want to stick it?
Hello.
All I see is your hand. Put your face in the camera. Yeah. Look at that.
Hey,
I look a mess.
Look.
Hey, man. This is my baby right here. How old are you now?
17.
17. I got so many guns, girl.
I'm ready.
Boy, you better stop asking your kids how old they are, man. That boy like, how old are you now?
For every year she is, I got at least 5 bullets for you.
Oh, man. Tell me about it. I don't got to worry about no girls. I'm glad about that, man. Good luck. Oh, she going to prom this year too, huh?
All these grades, man, came from that one girl.
I see you.
Premature.
She got prom this year too?
She got prom, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She going with me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm chauffeuring. I'm shadowing. You hear me?
He ain't paying you no attention.
She going with who?
He ain't paying you no tension. No tension.
Joel. Who? Girl, anyway, she ain't going.
Hey, we can play. I'm down for playing that bad boy scene. We can do that.
Man, I'm tough, man.
I can come to the door.
Woo! These little niggas.
Who was that at the door? Man, you look 35.
These little dudes, man, they perverted, man.
Oh yeah. It's a different time, man.
Yeah,
it's a different environment from when we were. You was a little nasty too, though, but that's a whole nother conversation.
I was out of nasty, but they on the whole another. They ignorant and nasty.
Yeah, and it's easy these days, man. That we ain't.
Yeah.
If it was this easy back in the day, man.
Yeah, these little boys be trying to send, peck of pictures. I don't want to say it.
Peck of pictures.
Peck. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, man.
That's what they do nowadays. We ain't have all technology and stuff back then, man. We just
peck of pictures, man. What's
I ain't know no other way to say it, man.
Oh man, I forgot where we'd have left off as the girls that came in and bombarded the show.
Yeah, say it. Stay away from my daughters, little boys out there. Straight up.
You be all right, man. You be all right. She got brothers.
Man, they don't do that. Yeah, they like the police.
Oh man,
not built to protect, man. They're not built to protect.
No, they're not, man. So I don't know, man. I mean, just to kind of get back into it. It's just, I don't know how we begin to.
So look, question.
Yeah.
Who's responsible for the parent if they allow the kid to be buck wild? You know what I mean? Like, in other words, how do we hold the parent accountable? Basically, if they've been, I'm saying from a generational standpoint, if one kid been taught a certain way, that kid teach their kids, and
it keeps going.
So, it just keep going. So it's almost like, man, I be trying to stop the blame and say, okay, the parents. But I mean, if you dig deeper, maybe the parents were never taught, or they were taught a certain way, raised a certain way to be, you know what I'm saying, lawless.
Right.
Because you know how you have some drug families?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they've been doing drugs like all, you know what I'm saying, for 3-4 generations.
Right.
So, you know, it's almost like when you're born into it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it gets hard to blame, right? Because when you look at that environment, it kind of goes back to the idea of Black Panther, right? When you think about Killmonger, right? He could have been anything, right?
Right.
But it was that one thing that gave him focus for the rest of his life, that he wanted to get back home, become who he was, so that he can get back home and prove to them that he was better than the rest, right? And that was only because he felt like he wasn't accepted in that environment and in that community, because they left him, right? And so it's the same. And so we got to start somewhere.
Right.
And part of the thing is that a lot of when I look at what's going on, I don't want to be dismissive, right? Because you don't know what people have gone through or what they're going through in their life. I'm not dismissing the fact that people do ignorant stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, environment has a ton to do with who a person becomes, right? If not one of the most important things, right? So you can have terrible parents, but you could spend most of your childhood at your grandparents' house,
right,
where it's a warm, a wonderful, welcoming, loving environment, and you can be that type of person, right? But if we want to begin, it's all about breaking cycles. One, we have to, as parents, have to understand that we're human and we make mistakes, and be okay with correcting those mistakes when necessary. Like, you start asking yourself, where did you go wrong? Now, it's hard. I get it that now your child is grown and you looking at him, you like, where did I go wrong? What did I do? And at the end of the day, there are some kids that just are not, you know, I've heard guys say that, man, my parents were the model parents. It was me. It was me that wanted to be out here in these streets and do these things. And I made those decisions. And at that point, we know who the blame is. We know who, because he or she is basically taking accountability.
Right.
But to your question, I think that largely it has a lot to do with our communities if we want to start correcting some of this old trauma.
I'm with all that, you know what I mean? Because I never too much, even though I'm asking these questions, I don't dwell on, you know, who's to blame or whose fault it is. It's more like, what's the solution? You know what I mean?
I'm gonna let you finish it. I got a question for you. Go ahead, finish it.
So solution wise, I always look at it like, no matter what, every kid wants to be or wants to feel like somebody cares. You know what I mean? They always go. I think it's Maya Angelou quote that says, "You always remember how a person made you feel."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, not what they say, but how they make you feel.
Yeah, so it's like when you can make a difference in someone's life just by showing up, just by showing you care, I think, you know, that's a start to begin to heal.
Right. So my question to you is, if you never really question or concern yourself about the root, how will you ever understand the fruit? Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the difference, but I don't think the blame is the root. I think blame is today synonymous with cause, and it's not. You know what I mean? So the root problem is not a blame game. The root problem is you're finding something out. You know what I mean? And I always say that even in church, you know, when we pray, I always tell people like, yo, stop praying against the fruit. Stop praying against the results of a thing and pray against the root of it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the root is the cause. You know what I mean? And it's not because I believe blaming, you ain't really trying to help. Okay, we play basketball together, right?
Yeah.
If there's a broken play, mm-hmm. is there really a blame, or is there like find out what the problem is and fix it? So what's the root cause of this problem that this guy can't run this play right? You know what I mean? Or you keep missing your assignment, or you know what I mean? You're just not getting it.
Yeah.
We don't blame you.
Well, I think I get the play on words, right? So blame, I think what you're saying, blame and cause are kind of sort of the same thing. What you're saying though is that you don't want to be focused entirely on the blame and be able to walk away from something, because if you can blame somebody for a thing, then you don't have to take accountability for your actions, right? So if somebody slaps you and then you slap them back, then and you can literally blame them for the reason. That is the reason you slapped them, because they slapped you, but you still have to take accountability for the fact that you made the decision to retaliate in that way. Now, it might have been the right retaliation, right? But the blame for where that started is with you. So even when it comes to my dad, right, there are certain things that I could blame him for. But at the end of the day, once I say out of my mouth that I blame him for whatever it is that's going on in my life, at that point, I am making a conscious decision to continue to be that person or do something different, because now I have identified the root of who I am and what I'm doing, right?
Okay.
So we just can't. So I think what I hear you saying is that don't just stop at the blame. All right. Yep. I was the one. I did it. Now what?
I'm looking at the definition of blame. Mm-hmm. I want to get it says to assign responsibility for a fault or a wrong. Mm-hmm. You know, a noun is responsibility for a fault or a wrong. Mm-hmm. Okay. After we identify the problem, which is what the blame is.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Then what? You know what I mean? Because I think most people just look at the blame and not really talk about a resolution. Nobody really talks about, you know what I mean, resolving anything. It's just like, if I'm arguing with my wife, we go back and forth, and who's to blame for this argument? It's like, at that point, we can, you started this, and it's just going to keep going back and forth, because it's blaming, because if you blaming someone, they're going to get defensive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if we say, okay, we blame the parents, or, you know what I'm saying, some people say they blame the school system, and they blame, like, it's plenty of blame literally to go around.
Right. No, there's plenty of blame.
Yeah, I mean, everybody got it, because if it takes a village to raise one,
right? You
know what I mean? Everybody and everything has something to do with that person's being held accountable. Right. You know what I mean? For their actions. So let's take it one by one and say, okay, school system to blame. Let's fix it. How are we gonna fix it? Boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? And then, okay, the parent to blame. Okay, how are we gonna fix it? Because we can't just end that. Okay, parents, you just did wrong. We blaming you.
Right.
Or can you talk out of love, because everybody needs to know you care. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So if you nobody's going to come to a parent, step to a parent, even though they talk tough on social media and all these news media outlets and say, you know, the parents and they ain't finna talk to no parent like that, because they know it's going to be a back and forth. Mm-hmm. So if you come out of love and showing that you care, like, man, I don't want to see your child get killed. I don't want to see my child. You know what I mean? Like from a different, have a different tone as opposed to attack. Because niggas fight back. You know?
Right.
Yeah. So you hit me with one of them blame games, like nigga, what?
Right.
You don't even know me. Like, I mean, that's where it's gonna start.
Yeah.
But I think if we can become allies, you know what I'm saying, emotionally with people that we're blaming. Right. We keep using blame, but I really don't like it.
No, I think it. I don't think anybody likes to be blamed. I think I don't think that anybody wants to be blamed for anything negative, and take the blame for that. But I also think that if we take more responsibility in it, we could probably start to change things. So if we're more accepting of some of the things that our loved ones bring to us. So if your wife came to you genuinely and said, what you did to me yesterday, I didn't like it, this is how it made me feel. There's some blame there. At that point, you got two directions. You can say, that's stupid. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't say it. That wasn't my intent. You know what I meant. Or you can say, you know what? I didn't know that it came out that way. I apologize. What can we do to make that better so the next time something like this happens, you don't have the same reaction, right? That's the solution, right? But most times in arguments and whatever, not just with your spouses, but with your children, especially with your children, because we think as parents, we have a level of ownership over our kids. We think that and we feel that. So what we say goes all the time. And so they can be genuinely trying to tell us how they feel and what they want, but we ain't listening. We pay the bills. We brought you in this world, and we know what's best. And we don't want to listen and take blame for whatever it is that they're feeling at that moment. And I think kids hold on to that, and they grow up, and then it festers and it becomes something else.
Well, I think it's a fine line when the kid tries to speak as if they know what they're speaking about. So for instance, if my 5-year-old or even if my 12-year-old telling me about something that they haven't yet to experience, that they are probably experiencing at that point, but have not really gone through it and experienced it.
Yeah.
So I always believe this. Going there, I don't care how you feel. Going there, can't tell been there how to get there. So shut the hell up. You can't tell me. You know what I mean? It's like, little boy, little girl, stop. You know what I mean? Like, if what you're experiencing, you still haven't gotten. It still hasn't gotten complete yet. So you still haven't experienced. You know what I mean? It's almost like it's almost. I don't want to get inappropriate, but it's almost like your first kiss. And say you kissing somebody, a girl who, you know what I'm saying, she didn't have her experience, and you start kissing her, and you tell her, no, you got to do it. She's like, what, nigga, what?
Right.
It's your first kiss.
Right.
You're actually you haven't even completed it yet. You know what I mean? So how you gonna tell me, you know what I mean? That to me, I think as a parent, when that happens, when the kid starts to act as if they know. Now you can tell me how you feel. Yeah, you know how you feel, but you can't tell me what's right or what's wrong. You just not. You can't tell me that what you did wasn't stupid. It was. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, yes, it was. So however I make you feel, and that's another thing, like as a parent, I don't think we should cater to, kids' feelings too much, because kids are fickle, just like humans are fickle.
Well, adults can be fickle. Adults are fickle as well.
So like I could whoop my son. I whooped him the other day. I didn't whoop him, I just hit him.
No, you whooped him.
He started welling. You know what I mean? He crying. He hot for 15 minutes. Literally, that 16th minute, it's almost like he forgot about it. You know what I mean? It's like we was on something else. So it's like, you can't really play to kids, because what they'll do, they'll start wrapping you around their finger, man, with their little feelings. And like my baby girl, she's a female, so I literally approach her different than I do guys, because her emotions are, intense like a mom. You know what I mean? So it's like, but I can't get wrapped up in her emotions.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't finna wrap me around your finger with your emotions and your feelings, because I'm still direct. I'm still going to be like, listen, I feel you.
Mm-hmm.
You feel in a certain way, but you still were wrong. And I'm blaming you,
Yeah. No, I mean, for sure there's a fine line between it, man. I definitely agree with that. And there isn't a playbook, right? And the older our kids get, when you get into that, some of your kids are in their teenage years. So I imagine there's a different level of hormones and emotions and things of that nature going on that you have to deal with. And so, yeah, we as parents definitely have to figure out how to play that game. But I am also learning that I can't be as stern or bullheaded in some of my ways of thinking, right? And so there's a book, I can't remember the humble poet wrote Unlearn, right? And basically the book talked about a lot of the things that we learned growing up, that when you take a look back at those things, they probably weren't basically what it was is that we learned from people who learned from other people, and those things weren't necessarily the right things, right? No matter what it is, whether it was like, it could be, you could have learned how to put up some drywall, but if you learned it from somebody prior to you that learned it from somebody that taught them how to do it wrong, that's what you learned. And that's what you know. And so I have to also understand that I am not all knowing, and that at some point somebody can call something out that I have made a habit of that I am unaware of. So I have to be open to the fact that even my kids, but not to the point to where it's like you challenging me, but to a point to where I have to revisit, like, all right, how did I handle that particular situation? Right.
Okay.
And was that the right thing to do?
Okay. Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Coach Garrett, shout out to Billy Garrett. One of the best coaches in Chicago.
Right.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
When Coach Garrett...
We're going to have him on the show, too. I think I'm going to get him on the show.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
When Coach Garrett would correct us or not really care about our feelings.
Yeah.
Because he knows what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what needs to get done. And he knows where you need to be. And most times he knew your ability and your potential better than you did.
Mm-hmm.
Better than we did as players. Yeah. Right?
Mm-hmm.
At what point does a coach really start to care about Negroes' feelings? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
No. When I'm parenting, it's just like coaching. It's like, look, no, this is the play, Negro.
Right.
This is what you're supposed to be doing. Right. Just like if a kid, well, I don't feel like I'm going to school. No, you're going.
You're going to school. Yeah.
Nothing. I'm not. You know what I mean? So why is it that in that instance we never challenged Coach Garrett? Mm-hmm. You know, we might have went back and forth. Well, I thought this, and he'll correct it. Well, you weren't supposed to be. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But there was never a. I feel like this, and we never approached him after a game and one-on-one like, hey, you made me feel like this, because that's just what we do.
Yeah,
he's the leader, and people and kids have to understand that if you are a parent that is a leader, you know what I mean. They need to understand you're leading, whether you're right or wrong. Now, was Garrett right every single time? No, but for the most part, he knew what the heck he was doing. Mm-hmm. We probably didn't even understand it, and we probably didn't agree with it at that time. But it's like it all goes back to that feelings. I feel like we should do this, or I felt like we should do that. Mm-hmm. But no, even if he wrong, Greg Popovich, whoever, you think they was always right, calling the right play? Right. No, but they were leaders, and as coaches and parents, we need to be respected as such.
Mm-hmm. Well, sure. No, I can't disagree with that. But as a rebuttal, right? What I'd ask you is, how do you handle? We're clearly living in a different technological age than what we grew up in, right? And so our kids have greater access to information and people across the world than we ever had, right? And so we know what happens when you give children that much access. When we were growing up, man, there was this little box, this little cable box that if you had the little chip in it, you could get Showtime and then Skinamax, right? And access and all that thing. So you know what happens when you give a kid a little bit of access, right? And so now these kids have all this access. How do we begin? And so life is different from when we grew up. Life is definitely different from when we were 19, 20. And let me back up. Between 15 and 20, it's different than what our kids are going to experience at 15 to 20. At what point do you back up and say, my kid may know a little bit more about what's going on in the world in this environment than what I know? And I guess I'll let you answer that, but.
Never. my kid ain't going to know because our kids grew up different. They have a lot of information, but they also have a lot of false information. You know what I mean? I believe it really boils down to influence. I was just talking to my daughter about this the other day. Mm-hmm. As you get older, people are you're going to start to show where your influence is actually coming from, whether it be home or whether it be outside sources. So people that know us and know you are going to look at you if you're acting out saying, oh, I know their parents ain't teaching that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So to me, it's all about influence. They have a lot of information out here, but the battle as a parent today is over influence. We want to influence our kids more than everything else because all that information, we got a lot of information too. They might have a lot of technological information, but they don't have a lot of life information.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they got a lot of people out here that's doing, the TikToks and people on Instagram, and they look at the personalities and think that's how you're supposed to act, and they start to, just try to bite and start saying little lingos and all this type of stuff. So it's like, we don't even talk like that around here. So that they're being influenced by, outside. So to answer your question again, I would never, because I'm always learning too. So we're trying to stay on top of the information world as well. But no, a kid is not none of my kids are going to be able at this point, because I haven't slowed down with learning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't none of them read more than me. Right. You know what I'm saying? And not that like I'm smarter. It's just like, no, I'm not going to allow you to tell me you actually know what's going on. You haven't been anywhere. You've been raised sheltered.
Right.
Let's be real. You ain't been raised. I know a lot. You know what I'm saying? Just in my little 40 years, I know a lot. You know what I mean? So no, all the information in the world versus experience, it doesn't pan out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's definitely, you're right about that. Experience is key. I'll take experience over information in most situations. And I think you hit on something that is really key. I know early on we were talking about accountability. But I think influence is huge, right? And it gets into the environments, but influence, it just took me back to the place where I understand that I know I'm not going to be the only influence for my kids, man. And as they get older into that teenage and young adult stage, they are going to be, it's going to be their influences that begin to direct them in areas in which they'll actually spend the rest of their lives, right? And decisions that they make. Who's going to influence them? And I think a big part of what we're doing and what we need to do is change up the people that we allow. And I'm not just saying from a parent's perspective, but also from a kid's perspective, that we allow into our circle to influence who we become, right? Yeah. So no, that's definitely key. And on that note, that's a great way. We're gonna definitely wrap up, and we can get into influence on another episode. We can bring that in. But yeah, man, the city. I'm praying for my city. I'm praying for the
City's
world.
On fire.
Yeah, man. Praying for the people in it. Praying for my people. I just really want people to be at peace and find whatever happiness looks like to them, man. I think if people find their happy place, we could be a lot better, right? And that might sound cliche or, childish. But I think at the end of the day, when people find what makes them happy in a positive way, they get out of the way of all the other stuff, man. So
yeah, true that.
But, easier said than done. It sounds simple, but I don't know, I don't have the key. I don't have the key to that Maserati.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So we got another one in the books, Real. We're gonna keep this thing going. We'll see y'all next week. Appreciate y'all for listening and joining. And if you want to keep up with us, check out the Awesome Black Dads website at awesomeblackdads.com. We keep the episodes updated and all the information we got. We're gonna have some merch coming soon and some other stuff that you can check out. We got some dope stuff coming, so stay tuned.
More fly topics, more real stuff we're gonna talk about. It's gonna get wild.
Absolutely.
So tune in for the next few thousand that we do.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Till then, y'all be safe. Peace.
Peace.